That's a refreshing beverage. Welcome back to another episode of Sippin With Sin, podcast where we talk about stuff and things. That's pretty much that's how we're going to break it down. But welcome back to yet another episode. We appreciate you all listening. Yet another week, another episode, another chance for us to ramble and talk a bunch of nonsense about pretty much nerdy stuff. So it's awesome. But again, thank you for being here. We have a lot to cover. We have quite a bit to go over. Such topics as Stranger Things finale for season 4, the second part of it, The Boys, most recent episode, as well as Miss Marvel. So we're not going to dilly-dally. We're going to get right into the thing, and we're going to introduce our esteemed co-host, the one, the only, the dreadlock himself, Christian.
What's up, everybody? Good to be here again for another wonderful episode.
Yes, sir. All right. So as we like to do, we're not dilly dallying today. We're on task. We're getting to work. We're getting to business. As we like to do, though, we will start with how we always start, with what we've been watching, reading, listening to, or playing most recently. And I'll go ahead and I'll just kind of kick it off, I guess, with I watched Christian's movie. He referred me, Wolf of Snow Hollow, I believe, right? Yeah, Wolf of Snow Hollow. Wasn't that it? That's the name.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. I watched it, and it was solid. It's a solid movie. Okay. Oh, man. I don't want to give spoilers. I want to give people time out there in listening land. If you want to watch it, it's on Amazon Prime. Go watch it. I would love to hear your feedback. So I will give a disclaimer, though. If you watch horror-style movies and you take them serious, then you won't like this. This movie is definitely not taking itself serious, and it's making fun of a lot of things. So if you like movies like Cabin in the Woods or Dead Don't Die or stuff like that, go check it out. It's like, I don't even know if it's an hour and a half. It might be like an hour and 20 minutes, if that. It's not a super long movie, but it's definitely worth a watch. It's on Amazon Prime. Go check it out. And I watched it. It was fun. It was a fun movie to check out. But yeah. Definitely go in with the mindset that's making fun of itself. So if you're going in, you're like, wow, this is extra cheesy or B or whatever, it's purposely like that. So just kind of keep that in the back of your head. Something else I watched that was on Amazon Prime was a documentary called Val. And Val essentially is Val Kilmer pretty much telling his story, which is super fascinating to me. He apparently has always kind of kept a video camera and would record himself through different life events or throughout his life, including going to movie sets like Top Gun and Tombstone and, just different ones. And he will record himself and kind of interactions with like people. And he's telling his story throughout the years and kind of how his life has played out. And those that don't know, he currently, he had throat cancer. I believe it's gone. I could be wrong, but he can't really talk anymore due to the effects of the throat cancer and the chemo and everything. But it was a very interesting documentary. I actually really enjoyed it. It was really well done. It was beautifully done, actually. How Val and them laid it out was really cool. So I really enjoyed it. If you like documentaries such as myself, I love seeing behind the scenes of stuff. Definitely go check that out. It was super entertaining to me and lots of cool information. Like, for example, did you know, Christian, you've seen Tombstone, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you know for Doc Holliday, this is not a spoiler because that movie's from like 95 or something, but in the dying scene of Doc Holliday, where he's dying from tuberculosis, it's him and Wyatt Earp and Val Kilmer to feel the agony because he knew it was a very emotional scene and they have a very close friendship. To feel it, he had their art department and all set up the bed with full of ice. They just loaded it with ice so he could be in absolute agony while shooting that scene so he could feel more of what Doc felt to do the scene. I thought that was pretty cool.
I did not know that.
Interesting little tidbit, though, but there's lots of little facts like that, and then lots of like insight to his life and things that happen and stuff like that. It's pretty coal. I enjoyed the movie, I actually really did, or the documentary, I really did. But that's enough about me.
Batman?
Wait, what?
Did he talk about being Batman and Batman Forever?
He did. So true story in it, and I'm trying not to like say too much because if anybody wants to watch it, I don't want to ruin it. He said that he was actually in Africa when he found out he was going to be Batman, and he would come out of a bat cave they had found. And he didn't have service or any way for people to reach him. And his agent was like, I've been trying to get in touch with you. They want you to be Batman. He said, I didn't read the script. I didn't do anything. I just said yes. Because what little boy or man does not want to be Batman? Like, that's the ultimate goal. That's like one of the premium things in Hollywood, to be Batman. And then he talked about that it was where Tommy Lee Jones could kind of like make a larger than life character, and Jim Carrey, they could do so much more. He said under that suit, it was miserable. You could not hear, so people stopped talking to you because you could never hear. It was hard to breathe, hard to see. You had no mobility. You couldn't turn. And he said after so long, they would put you, like, they would give you oxygen. You would just kind of collapse. It was terrible. And he said, I could not bring out anything in the character, really. So, like, you see me put my hands on my hips a lot. He was like, there's nothing you could really do in the suit. He was like, so after a while, it was pretty much just, you just go stand there and be there. Like, that's all you really had to do. And he's like, that's all I could do. And then apparently it got mixed reviews, but it was a success commercially. So they wanted him to come back for the next one, and he turned it down because he wanted to do the same. He was like, no, I'm not doing another one.
Because he wanted to do what next?
The Saint, because he got to play like 10 roles, I think, in The Saint or something, because it was like whatever.
The Saint was not a great film, though.
Yeah, it's
better than Batman and Robin, but it's not a good movie. So I got it. I get you.
Well, I mean, yeah. It's nice. I'm curious how it would have been if he would have done another one, but it sounds like it was miserable for him in the suit, which sucks. But I mean, I could kind of see it because that suit is pretty thick and sturdy, and you can definitely tell how stiff it is, like how you turn and everything. Sure. But enough about me. Let's get into it, because like I said, we got a lot to talk about this week. So Christian, what have you been into this week?
For those of you who listened to last week's episode, you know that I now have a PS5. I've been playing a lot more God of War, and I'm super hyped for Ragnarok, which is now scheduled to come out in November. So in November, I will not be available for like the entire month. I'll be playing God of War every fucking day. So there's that. And nobody fucking told me that you can fight dragons in that game. So yeah, I'm having a time. That game, like, if people tell you, oh, playing God of War is easy, they're fucking liars. Like, I understand if you're somebody who's played, like, nothing but Souls games and Elden Ring for the last, like, 10 years. I totally get it in that sense. But at the same time, it's not necessarily an easy game. It's not the hardest game I've ever played in my life. But it's definitely not pick up the controller and just go and do stuff. Like, it gives you a challenge. But with that said, I've been doing that. I started watching this movie. I haven't finished it yet. It's a movie that most people have seen. It's called Bound, starring Jennifer Tilly. It is like the premiere. Like,
Jennifer Tilly is brother Chucky, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And it's from like '96. It's a good movie so far. I'm like halfway in it, so it's like super drama filled right now. Actually, I don't even think I'm halfway in it. I've got already. I've seen 2 lesbian scenes right now. I totally understand why everybody that is our age that has seen this movie talks about it all the time. Why it was one of the most rented movies of all time. I totally get it. Totally see it. But I'm enjoying watching it right now. Not for the obvious reasons, of course, but just finally seeing this movie after all this time. So that's what I've been watching aside from what we've already talked about. And it's just, good time. I don't have a whole lot of free time to watch stuff this week, but the little free time I have, I'm using it watching Bound and playing God of War. So there's that.
All right. So I guess that means it's time to get to our first topic, and probably our, I don't know how to go into it. So yeah. Ms. Marvel. All right, so I watched the most recent episode. My notes are very short. And as noted in all the previous episodes, this show is not for me. And in fact, at this point, I am struggling to get through it. It's just, and I can't blame it on the actors or anything like that. It's just not for me. It's not my demographic. I'm constantly rehashing this, but it's to the point now where, like, I'm ready for it to be over. And I'm not really into it. I'm not into it at all. We did learn, and a spoiler, if you're watching, which by the time this comes out, I mean, it's already whatever. You should have been able to see it. But Cameron has some powers, apparently, so I guess that's kind of cool. I didn't really expect that. I thought he was just kind of playing Jane, unlike some of the others. But yeah, that's about all I got out of that episode, and not for me.
So my thoughts on the latest episode 5. This was the most boring, most egregious of all the episodes we've watched so far. I was really pissed off that they spent the entire first half of the episode essentially like doing a flashback to like her great grandmother or whatever. It was super rushed and quick and boring. Her great grandmother, the actress, is fucking stunning, by the way. She's beautiful. She's a gorgeous woman. So I'll say that. But other than that, dude, it was really boring. We didn't see her use her powers. We didn't see her do anything with the bangle. We just saw her like essentially get domesticated by this random guy who's apparently Muslim, and that's why they're treating him so badly because of the time it was in the world. And then also like he has a bad leg, his bum leg, and he's walking around with the makeshift cane. So we have that going on, and I'm like, okay, cool, we have that. Then after the backstory, we see that uh, Cameron's mom is back there, and she's trying to go back to their world like she's doing now, which is very boring and played out. The lady dies, and then Kamala shows up, and Kamala is the person who made the stars to send her back to her dad, blah, blah, blah. I totally called that on the last episode, but I was joking. And then when they did it, I was like, wow, this writing is so fucking lazy. And like I said, it's not for me. This was the only episode out of all the episodes I just thought was completely poorly written. It just wasn't good. The dialogue all the characters said was just really bad. It was super fucking rushed. They rushed a whole lot of stuff to make you think this was the last episode, but we know it's not because we know it's 6 episodes. So now we have to go into the last episode of this season. She has to somehow get her costume, figure out how to use her powers well enough for us to convincingly think that she can do the stuff that she's supposed to be able to do. Kamran's mom is dead. He doesn't know. She somehow just spirit awayed her powers to him. So now he has powers all of a sudden, and he hasn't had them. But which it was weird because they made it seem like he did have powers because he totally like fell and like broke his neck like an episode ago and didn't die. He was just fine. So it's weird. Like it's just very poorly written. I really didn't like it. I fucking hated this episode so much. I'm not looking forward to the last episode. I am, however, ready for this entire season to be over. I hate that this show has the worst of all the shows we've seen so far because it's the most experimented with show that we've seen so far. It doesn't follow the formula so much as all the other shows. And that really sucks for the younger crowd because, I mean, there's no way people are going to go back and watch this after it's done and think it was good. Like, it's just not well done. This episode was just trash. I just really hated it. Kamala was written very badly in this episode. I hated everything she said. I hated all the stuff with Red Dagger in this episode. It was just a big reunion for her mom, and her grandma to all like be friends, which I get, but it just didn't work for me. And then Kamran actually thinking that Bruno's name was not Bruno this whole time, and he was like, "Oh, I genuinely thought your name was Brian." Like, it was just really annoying. Like, I did chuckle at that because that was the only part of the episode that was interesting to me. But I just really, really didn't like this episode, and I'm ready to move on.
Yeah. All right. So Christian loved the episode. Got it. All right. Now that we got that out of the way with our lovely thoughts, and if you're a teen and, if you're listening to this and you're, around that age group, this show may be hitting for you. It may be great. For us, not so much. This is how it goes. That's how it plays out. But moving on to a show that does hit for us, we got episode 7. Yeah, episode 7 of The Boys.
Yeah.
We get to discuss with a huge revelation. Maybe it wasn't that big of a revelation. I kind of actually didn't see it coming for some reason. I don't know why, but I really didn't think about it. But it's pretty cool, actually. And quick note, before we start getting into detail on The Boys, the more we see Soldier Boy, the more I like him. Is that weird?
Not at all.
I'm enjoying his character. He's like this perverted old man that obviously doesn't look like an old man, but it's so weird, but it's great. And he'll make like weird old snarky remarks that I love. And he also had a great line this week in which he told Huey to gargle his ball sack, which was wonderful. I love it. I actually, what Jensen is bringing to Soldier Boy, I personally really enjoy it. And I'll hope he sticks around for a little bit. I don't really know what to expect. I hope he sticks around because I'm enjoying having him in the show. But you want to do I know you got some notes to break down. Do you want to kind of go in and I can just chip in here and there?
I mean, I'm going to be all over the place because I really enjoyed this episode. Yeah. So I like that we saw Homelander. We knew that Maeve was alive, right? Because we didn't see a body. And also, if you look at the first trailer of this season, you see her fighting with Starlight, like in Vought. So we know that she's alive. So, and when I say fighting with, I mean fighting alongside Starlight, not fighting her. But anyway, we saw Maeve in this room locked up. And then if you look and pay attention, you'll notice that she's locked in the same room that Homelander grew up in, which was that white room where he would have those like fake mothers come in and like, say that they love him and stuff, and he
That's
would
interesting.
essentially just squeeze them to death and kill them. Yeah. So if you pay attention, it's totally the same room. And then that's why he says like, I wanted a kid of my own, and my kid won't be raised in a room like this, which is the room that he was raised in, because we saw his backstory from his point of view a while ago. So I really enjoyed seeing that. She knows immediately that he's wearing concealer to cover up that bruise that he got from that fucking ass whipping he got last episode. So that was fucking dope. I really enjoyed that. Like I said, I'm going to be jumping around heavily on this episode because I watched it at the time of this recording a little while ago, so I don't remember everything the way that it happened, but I remember watching this episode and completely.
Before you jump off the Maeve thing, he also reveals, and so obviously you're listening to this and you haven't seen, you might want to skip ahead, a good 15 minutes or so probably. But he reveals that he wants to have kids with Maeve, pretty much, right? And he's like, talking about having.
He wants to have kids with her because of her power. He wants. It's kind of, so for those of you who
he
are
wants to make like a super strong child, pretty much.
Yeah. If you're anime fans, it's essentially like Endeavor from My Hero Academia, right? Like he wants to breed essentially with somebody whose powers complement his to make the ultimate super child that can be better than him and All Might. So it's kind of the same thing. He wants to have a super kid, right? That's just the strongest shit he can make. So that's kind of what he's going for at that moment. So he told Maeve straight up, like he's going to harvest her eggs.
Yeah.
So that if she dies, he can still have, a baby and a super baby and blah, blah, blah. And they won't be raised in a room that she's locked in the room that he grew up in, all that stuff. So like, that's really cool. I really enjoy seeing that. I really enjoyed that portion because that's one of the scariest things Homelander has ever said to a person. Like, she was like, you're just going to take advantage of me, blah, blah, blah. He was like, no, I'm not a savage. I would never force you to do anything. And then he follows that by, but I am going to harvest your eggs though. And he says it just like that.
Nonchalantly too, just says it. Dude, he's crushed. Homelander's so good. Like, the actor and everything. Like, that whole character is fascinating to me. I love it.
Dude, Anthony Starr, we've said it multiple times, but he's killing it on this. He's killing it. He's
honestly, they all are to me. I feel like I don't really have a character per se that I'm like, I really dislike. And it's kind of like a pain to watch. I'm like, Huey has his moments, but Huey's essentially us, like you said before. He's a regular guy. I know Butcher's a regular guy too, but Butcher's a regular badass guy. So, I mean,
just toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Which toxic male do you want to follow in this show? You want Homelander? You want Butcher? You want Soldier Boy? Like, which toxic male do you want? Even Huey, because we've learned from this season, from the revelations of the last episode, that Huey has a little bit of that toxic masculinity in him as well. He wants a woman that he can save, essentially. He doesn't like being weaker than Starlight, even though he told her that he doesn't mind it. So we got that revelation. And to jump ahead a little bit, like, seeing Huey and Homelander talking and what Soldier Boy, seeing what Soldier Boy says, like he says shit like, I'm gonna slap you like Connery. For those of you who are too young to understand what that means, there's a famous interview where Sean Connery says straight up that it's okay to hit women. So like, that's fucking insane for all of those of you who didn't know that or conveniently forgot about it. Sean Connery fucking slaps women. Like he thinks he's Shaft out here, dude. He didn't give a fuck. But with that said, he tells Huey he'd slap him like Connery if he brings up the fact that he has PTSD again. He's like, I don't have shell shock. Fuck you. Like, I love that kind of stuff. Just the way that he talks, like you can tell, like he knows what it is and what it means, but he doesn't want to hear it because he's so toxically masculine, dude. And that's really fun to see. I love that kind of shit. And then like we also see that Butcher this time is leaking. What was Huey says your brain is leaking, and he, in his ear you see like this kind of like viscous blood looking fluid coming out of his ear, which we later find out, jumping ahead, spoilers, that Starlight breaks on the Vought and finds out that Temp V will kill you at 3 to 5 doses will kill you. It'll give you brain aneurysms. So that's why they're
seizures and all kinds of shit. They like terrible side effects, which end up being fatal.
Which they thought it was just the throwing up the first couple of hits of this shit, but that's not the case. And then we get this episode, they're going after I forget his name. I want to call him Mastermind, but that's totally not his name. But they're going after another member of Soldier Boy's old team, the guy who could like read your thoughts and shit. And he tells them, just don't look him in the eye, and you're fine. Um, and Butcher, tells Huey that he keeps him super high because he has PTSD, and it's the only thing that keeps him calm. But unfortunately, like in the '70s, where people used to say, if you smoke too much weed, you'll start hallucinating and whatever. And we all know, well, we don't all know, but if you've followed at all the effects of what marijuana actually does, you don't really hallucinate unless you got something laced with something else. But he's totally tripping. He starts hearing shit all the time, so that's not good. But they rather him like hear shit that's not actually there and see things kind of weird that aren't actually there than to constantly be killing everybody with his ability because he has PTSD. So
The guy's name was
uh,
Mindstorm, by the way.
Mindstorm, thank you so much. So Mindstorm gets the drop on them because Soldier Boy steps on a fucking landmine, blows up. He doesn't die though; they're just hurt. So they blow up and fall back, and then Butcher gets caught by Mindstorm, and then he gets locked into his own mind, and he relives his worst nightmares over and over and over again. And unfortunately, that is the life that he had growing up with his brother and dad. His dad used to beat the shit out of him, and his younger brother Lenny, who we've seen over the past few seasons that Butcher pretty much has adopted Huey as like the new Lenny, like his little brother. That's how he treats him. So we see that and how that went on, and Butcher went to join the armies to get away from his dad because he was tired of everything. Left his little brother behind, and his little brother couldn't hack it, so he committed suicide, unfortunately, which is super fucking sad. So Butcher having to watch it over and over again was really hard to see, but it was also really good character building, and it humanized him more. But then you also have Starlight calling Butcher at the end of the episode, letting him know, like, hey, Temp V is going to kill you. 3 to 5 doses, you're dead. Like, please tell Huey, don't do this to him, please. And he's like, I'll tell him. And then once he shows up, all we hear at that point is he's telling him, and he's going to tell him, and then he says, we got to go get more Temp V so they can finish the mission instead of telling him that it is killing him. But what I think is going to happen, I think one of two things. One, he's not going to let Huey do it again, and he's going to destroy the Temp V, or he's going to take it himself and try to, just take it himself so that he could go and take care of the job. That way Huey doesn't die, but if he dies, it's fine. If he gets his hands dirty, it's fine. He's going to do that to protect Huey because he knows that he's addicted. So hopefully we'll see something to that effect happen, and poor sweet baby Huey doesn't die, even though he's been a dick this season. We'll see what happens. I don't know. There's a lot of shit going on in this season that you think's not going to happen, and it totally fucking does. Another thing, we see that fucking A-Train is not dead. He did have a heart attack, but he had a heart transplant, and he now has the heart of the man he killed, which is Blue Hawk. So he has a super's heart so that he can run again and do his fucking thing. So I'm just like, oh my God. So that really sucks for him, but also fuck him, because if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have had the unfortunate death of the character. I can't even think of his name right now, unfortunately, that Homelander killed. But we had that.
Oh, Supersonic or whatever. You talking about him?
Supersonic, yes, that was him. And then we also have we learned that Soldier Boy is into older women.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
because he's old. He's an old damn man.
He's an old man, dude. He loves it. He loves Bengay and lube, apparently. And so that's also hilarious.
What a combo!
Oh man, we learned that Soldier Boy also never actually fought in the war. He came in after the fact, after the war was essentially done, and we learned that he's kind of full of shit. So that was really cool to hear. And another huge thing is we finally find out the backstory for Black Noir. So we learned that Black Noir's character, like why he wears the mask all the time, and we get the other half of the conversation that he had with Stan Edgar back during what was it, the 70s? I want to say it was.
Yeah. Whenever they took Soldier Boy.
Yeah. So we found out how that happened. We found out that the entire team betrayed him, and it all started with Black Noir, and they got the okay to do that to him because they were already making Homelander at that point. I.e., the end of the episode, the huge reveal. We find out that they had. They were cool to replace Soldier Boy with Homelander because they had already had Soldier Boy essentially nut in a cup, and they made Homelander based off of his DNA. So he is technically the father of Homelander, which is what we find out at the very end of the episode. Mindstorm tells him, and then he bashes his fucking face in with his shield. But we don't hear what he says. He whispers it before he dies. And then he calls Homelander at the end of the episode to let him know, like, if they would have just kept me around, I would have gladly let you take the spotlight. What father wouldn't want that for his son? And I was just like, oh shit. Like, we all saw it coming, well, except for you apparently, but all of us saw it coming. We were all fucking ready for it. And then when it happened, we're like, oh my God, they fucking did it. So it was great. I really loved seeing that. That was excellent to see.
It's going to set up an interesting dynamic for the finale too. Son and
like
father.
What the fuck's going to happen? What's going to happen? We also find out that the rest of the boys, so MM, Frenchie and Kimiko, like they're together. They're trying to figure out what that gas was to knock out Soldier Boy, because it's not how thin gas what they thought. And then Frenchie finds out after being super fucking high what it actually is. So they know now how to knock him out, which I'm sure is going to come back into place. But to get that drug, they're going to have to either go back to Russia or patch things up with Little Nina. So we're going to see what happens with that. We also see that Kimiko begged essentially Starlight to go back to Vought to get her regular V.
Yep.
Which is how she finds out about the Temp V killing Huey and Butcher. So she does do that.
Because she wants to protect Frenchie, her family.
Yeah, Frenchie's her family. She wants to protect her family. She doesn't want to lose.
That was a little weird to me, though, because here they are, like this emotional moment they've kissed, but it's almost like she was kind of saying, not like that, like you're more like a family, like a brother. That's what I was getting. Is that wrong? Or is she like have feelings for him, like in love with him?
What I'm getting from it is she definitely loves Frenchie, and they've had this tension for all this time. So they finally kissed. And I think what it is they realized, at least that both of them at the same time realized that they do love each other, but they're not in love with each other. Okay. They just love each other like siblings almost.
Okay, because that's the vibe I was getting the way she said, you're my family. I was like, that's not really like, you're my guy kind of thing. She wants to protect like her brother kind of vibe is what I got.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Because Frenchie's the only person who's like taking his time to kind of learn her version of sign language and get to know her and talk to her and get away with everybody, get away from everybody together. And I think that she absolutely is in love with Frenchie and wanted to be with him. But when they kissed, when you kiss somebody, at least when you're a little older, you kiss somebody and you kind of know right then, like, if this is a romantic kind of thing that you're feeling, like a sexual thing that you're feeling, or if it's more so like I do love this person and I want this person in my life, but it's not sexual in nature, it's platonic more. So I think that's kind of what happened, and that's why that kiss they had was so awkward. So we get that.
So speaking of kissing, I have to touch on something since we were talking about romantic. What about the Deep trying to bring Ambrosia, the octopus, into his relationship?
Yeah, the mollusk.
Oh,
that shit was hilarious.
Jesus.
Dude. So his wife. First, here's the thing. His wife, like,
it was so damn awkward.
I feel for her. She was like, I can't do this. Like, you're on your own. Like, I can't do that. Like, it's touching me. And he's like, first of all, it's a she, not an it. Get your pronouns right. And she's a mollusk. And I love all of that shit. That stuff was fucking hilarious. It was so funny.
Puts his tentacle on her leg. She's just like, nope.
Yeah, dude. Trying to have a threesome with this, she couldn't do it. And the other thing that I find hilarious too is, with that said, dude, like, I really don't like his wife anyway, because she's clearly just there for the fame. Like, she doesn't fucking love him, bro. Like, come on. There was an arranged fucking marriage for her to help him get to a higher spot in life so that she could also get to a higher spot in life. She's probably just going to divorce him after, he made a certain amount of money or whatever anyway and take half of his shit. Like, you can totally tell that's exactly where that was leading to. There was no way that was going to be fully platonic and they were both in it. And the way that he says it too is also hilarious. He's just like, our sex life's gotten a little vanilla and I wanted to add a third or whatever. That shit is fucking hilarious. He's such a fucking dude, bro. And he's very much the opposite of what his character was in the comics. Like, it's really fucking funny. So I love that. The Deep in the comics actually wore like a fucking like a old school helmet, like they would deep sea divers would. So he kind of looked like one of the big sisters in Bioshock. Like that's what he looked like. Or it was fuck. I'm sorry, Big Daddy. Sorry, Big Daddy. He looked like a Big Daddy from Bioshock. That's exactly what he looked like. So seeing him now as this like even more parodied version of Aquaman, Pretty Boy, like it's so funny, dude. But like I said, so much happening in this episode. Starlight gets caught going in the vault by Homelander, and he talks about killing Huey because she betrayed him and that she needs to tell everybody that she just had like a moment where she broke down because of drugs or whatever. And the only thing keeping her alive is her fans and blah, blah, blah. But then we find out that Starlight was recording him on a like a live, like an Instagram live from her social media. So he like tries to play it off like, oh, you're not supposed to record us while we're recording lines or we're practicing lines or whatever. So like she totally gets away with it. But like that's the last time she's going to be able to get into Vault without a full-on fight because Homelander is losing his shit, especially now that he knows who his dad is. So like there's just, like I said, there's so much going on in this show. It's so good. If you haven't been watching this show, what the fuck is wrong with you? Unless you're a child, like an actual child, you should absolutely be watching the show. It's so good. It's worth it. This is one of the best shows that I've watched in the last decade. It's on par to me with some of the greatest shows of all time. Like this is Breaking Bad good. You know, it's one of those shows that like it's a fucking cultural phenomenon. You should totally be watching this. If this shit were on like HBO, I think the entire world would be watching it. But the fact that it's on Amazon just lets you know that there are other people, there are other teams out there who really give a shit about the content that they're putting out. So it's 100% worth it. Gets a seal of approval from me. This is a show that once it's completed, even though it's on Amazon and I can watch it anytime I want, I would absolutely collect this shit on fucking 4K just to have it because it's that good. Like it's totally worth it. 100%.
Can I say that I love people from the community reaching out saying they're watching The Boys? Like, I don't know if we've inspired them talking about it or what, but people are like, I'm checking out The Boys, and had one talking about Jensen from Supernatural, and they love Supernatural, so Jensen's in it, and they were excited. Just different things like that in comments I think are really cool that other people are checking it out, whether it's through us or they were already watching it, but it's a great show. I love it. I have nothing negative to say about it.
Yeah, this is one of the few shows in the world that exist where so far it hasn't had a dud episode. Not yet. And we're what is it, season 4 right now we're on?
3.
Like season 1 was like perfection. There are a few shows that have a season 1 that's so good I would just watch that season again. Like one of the only shows I can think of right now that's not like Breaking Bad that I would say I would watch is like season 1 of the CW show The Flash. Season 1 of CW Flash was near perfect for what they were going for, and then I don't know what fucking happened. It just turned to shit. But season 1 of The Flash was fucking excellent. And like this show, season 1, near perfect. Season 2, still really fucking good. Season 3, they kicked everything up to 11, and then you get to this season and you're like, I thought 11 was the highest you could go. Oh, I'm so sorry. I think I'm mixing the seasons up with fucking Stranger Things right now because that's season 4.
This is season 3. We haven't got to 4 yet.
Season 2, they kicked it up to 11 with Stormfront and shit. And then you get to this season and you're like, I thought 11 was the highest we can go. No.
We're pushing to 20 on this thing just about. We're trying to.
One thing that I didn't mention, though, that I want to quickly talk about before we move on is Black Noir's backstory is told to him by his imaginary friends that he has because he doesn't have any fucking friends, bro. And like when they do the backstory, it's like in his mind essentially. And all the characters are the characters from this Chuck E. Cheese-esque thing that he's into. And they... these little fucking characters, they're all like animals, right? So when he goes back in time and when he goes back and starts thinking about the backstory of how he is what he is, all the characters are represented by the respective animals. So I love that Soldier Boy is a fucking eagle, and it's amazing because like you don't get more American than a fucking bald eagle, right? So that makes perfect sense. And then Black Noir, he is a black sheep. And it's really funny. Like at first I looked at it, I was like, oh, he's a black sheep because he's black. Oh, I get it. But no, he's a black sheep, not just because he's black, but because he is the odd one out of the group. He's the only one who wanted to stand up to Soldier Boy. He's the only one who complained to Stan Winston and all the other people. He's the only one who didn't want to wear his mask. He's the only one who wanted to make some changes. He's the only one who gets made fun of by all the other people in the group. And he's also the punching bag, which we saw in this. So Black Noir, the scariest motherfucker on the Seven, aside from Homelander, used to get fucking bullied by Soldier Boy. That shit is amazing to see. So we got a lot of character building in this episode. We got his character being built up. We got Butcher's character being built up. We got Kimiko's character being built up even more. We got build up for fucking Maeve and for Homelander in just one scene. Like, dude, this show, they're fucking onto it, dude. I'm telling you, it's so good. But with that said, man, like there's some things that I glossed over for sure talking about this episode, but that's mainly because my mind is all over the place with excitement right now about the show, and because you should watch the fucking show. Like, what the hell? We're telling you. Trust me when I tell you.
Watch the show, then let us know. Give us your thoughts on it.
Please. If you don't think that this show is a fucking banger, I will send you a check. I'm not going to tell you how much money's on the check, but I'll send you a fucking check. No. Anyway. That's what I think about it.
I want to check.
Yeah, well, you like the show. You don't need to check.
Oh, my God. This guy. All right. So we're moving along because we got some Stranger Things to talk about.
We do.
We sure do. So I've been thinking about this quite a bit. And my viewing experience for it, not because of the show, but because of having a 7-month-old and just everything that goes with that. Essentially, with them it was just 2 episodes for the second part, and it was an hour and a half, and then like 2.5 hours or something, right? They were long, but we kind of had to break it up. So we watched the first one, and then we watched part of the second one, and then we watched another part of the second one, and another part, and then we finished it. So it kind of got broke up. So, and I've had a lot of time. I think Mrs. Sin's already went back and rewatched it. Actually, I've had a lot of time to stew on it. And I have, okay, look, I don't know if Christian's going to agree with this. I have a hot take. Stranger Things season 4 is the best season of Stranger Things. Just going to say it. And I will even rank them for you. I was talking about it earlier. Stranger Things season 4, Stranger Things season 1, season 3, season 2. There's my ranking.
I think I agree with you wholeheartedly, actually.
And the reason I like Stranger Things season 4, the episodes are longer. So I felt like the pacing was pretty good. I was a little worried it was kind of all over the place. It come together pretty nicely in the finale. Vecna is the shit. Vecna is the best villain on there, and I love everything about Vecna. I'm just going to say that. I feel like Vecna is huge to the show. And the fact that... Okay, also, disclaimer, if you're listening and you haven't watched it for whatever reason, you might just skip to last call. Because I want to say some stuff about the plot. And if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry. So, potential spoilers, there's your warning. 3, 2, 1, okay. Vecna is the puppet master. And we find this out, and I love that. I love that Vecna is a puppet master. And I made the comment, if Vecna dies in this season, the next season will not be good. There is no way, because I do not see a way for Stranger Things to have a better villain, a better person on top than Vecna. Which, essentially, if Vecna doesn't die, without going full into detail. So, Vecna will return in the next season, which makes me excited. Dustin and Steve are amazing. Eddie was climbing ranks like no other. I loved Eddie's character. Eddie was a lot of fun, and the Master of Puppets guitar part when they're trying to lure the bats in, dude, that was so badass. That was such a cool scene, cool visuals, rocking out to an old thrash metal song. Really, really cool. I really enjoyed it. I've been thinking about. It's crazy the pop culture of this show, because you can take a song that's from the 80s, such as Master of Puppets, and I believe it's on the Billboard right now, just from that scene, just from it being played. And then also the Running Up the Hill song, Kate Bush's song, how popular that is now because of the pop culture of this show and how big it is. and listen to the lyrics. For some reason, like the song is played throughout the entirety of the season in different parts, but the lyrics kind of hit hard for the final, like the last little bit with Max and L. Like the opening lyrics that they keep repeating hit pretty hard, and I was like, that's really smart and really good. This season's fantastic though, love it. Sadly, Mike still pretty much sucks. He's still just a little lovesick puppy. Will Byers gets emotional a lot. I'm waiting on the come out. I feel like we kind of had a little bit of him coming out whenever it was him and his brother talking, Jonathan, when they were, we need to talk more now than ever. I feel like he knows, and it's kind of his way of, communicating with him and all that. Lucas. So I read somewhere that there's a scene. I'm jumping all over the place. I'm kind of pulling a Christian from Boys. Lucas has a really powerful scene where Max is dealing with Vecna. And apparently it was ad-libbed, the second little piece where he yells like, "Erica, help." Dude, that's so good. It was such a good emotional piece. Eddie's piece where it's him and Dustin. I don't know if I should say it. I mean, does it really matter if we say it? I mean,
you already said it was spoilers, so let's go for it.
Okay. Well, when Eddie's dying, the I love you man thing with him and Dustin, fantastic. Trying to think what else. Dude, one looked so badass when it showed him just starting to wander around in like the upside down. And he was like half burned, half whatever. He looked so sick. What else? So Max gets taken by. She has a pretty good strategy, but essentially Vecna still gets to her, and he is snapping shit, which was, I was like, oh my god, yes, because for some reason I want main characters to die. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like you'll get a little more emotionally attached, and you'll have that fear of losing people if they actually take people out, i.e. like Game of Thrones. Like, you're like, can I really get attached to this character and really root for him when I know they potentially could just get, like, taken out completely? Max gets busted up pretty bad. Like, she's in horrible shape, ends up passing away. But Elle somehow, in her dream state, is able to bring her back. But she's in a coma, so we'll see how that turns out. I said originally I was not excited for Season 5. After seeing Season 4 to its completion with Vecna, with everything, I'm actually super stoked to watch the finale for 5. I'm really stoked. This season has done a lot for hyping Stranger Things back up to me. Because before I would have said there's no way they'll top Season 1. Season 1 is fantastic, but Season 4 crushed it for me. I don't know if it's because I'm a horror fan, and it definitely had more horror vibes this season and more of that kind of take with Vecna and with everything going on and the brutality of the kills Vecna does. But it definitely was resonating with me, and I really liked it. But I figure I will play off of what Christian said, because I'm sure he has very thorough prepared notes, including Mike sucks. I'm sure that's going to come up quite a bit from him because he hates Mike and the character. Not the actor, but just the character.
I got words. I wanted you to get out what you need to get out, and I was gonna just go in.
I'm shocked that you went with me, because you were kind of like, I'm not excited about Stranger Things, and then we watched Season 4 and you're like, all right, now I'm interested. But the fact that you're agreeing that Season 4 is the best season kind of surprised me a little bit. I thought you'd be like, meh.
Well, here's the thing. We waited super long to get this season for a menagerie of reasons. And not only did we wait a bunch to get this, but like I just had time to watch other shit that I was into. You know what I mean? Since Stranger Things, we've gotten The Witcher. We've had fucking I can't even think of literally a single show, right? The Boys. There's so many things that we could watch in between time, and the hype died down. And they also started advertising Stranger Things in my opinion, the worst fucking way. They showed us at the time, it looked like we were going back in time. So we weren't even in the 80s. We're in the fucking 60s, essentially. And we're looking at a haunted house. It didn't have anything to do with the cast that we knew. None of the characters that we were in love with. We saw this shit. We find out now that was Vecna's house. But like, why? Why advertise it with some brand new shit you've never seen that looks cheesy as fuck? It looked totally off. So I was like, I'm not excited for this. This looks like a fucking side plot. This looks like a spin-off of Stranger Things that happens to be also The Conjuring at the same time. And then when we actually saw the season and that was just a tiny piece of the entirety of the story, then I'm back in it. But the way they advertising to me means a lot. So the way that you advertise shit to me means something. So like for an example, let's go to Star Wars episode 7, right? When we first get introduced to like Rey and Kylo and all that shit. When they advertised that movie, they advertised it as though we were going to get a new black protagonist that was also force sensitive and using a lightsaber and shit. And I was just like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. That's how I felt, you know? It fucking took off. And we get the movie and we know he's going to be a stormtrooper that joins the light side. I was like, oh my fucking God, this is everything I wanted. And we get all of that for the first half of the movie. And then he gets slashed in the back. And then Rey picks up the lightsaber and she's actually the one who's force sensitive. She's actually the one who is the good guy. She's actually the main character. And it's like, the reason why that didn't work for me is because it's not how you fucking advertise it to me. You advertise it that it was going to be Finn the whole time, and then it's not. You did a fucking bait and switch, and that's not what I ordered. You know what I mean? That's like if you order if I ordered fucking beef nachos, and then I'm looking at the picture and it looks like some fucking delicious ass nachos with all this shit on it and jalapenos and all this stuff, and then what I get is a fucking taco, I'm gonna be fucking pissed. You didn't show me a taco in the picture. You showed me fucking nachos. With that being said, though, to get back into this, I agree with everything you said. I agree with every single fucking thing that you said. And the only thing I'm going to do now so that I'm not repeating what you just said is to just go into certain things. And I'd like to start by saying...
Can I start with, did you want Max to die? No, granted,
yes.
I like Max's character has had a nice... She's been developing nice as a character. Like, she's growing. The character growth is good. But did you want that death to kind of, like... shake the core of the group? You know what I'm saying? Like the show that can like really, that off the top of my head that really did that well was Game of Thrones. How they would be like, oh, you like Robb Stark? He's dead. Oh, you like Ned Stark? He's dead. You know, like they would just kill the shit out of people and be like, all right, now what?
Theirs was a lot of for Game of Thrones. A lot of that was shock value, just like Walking Dead, right? A lot of that was shock value. With this, the thing is, I wanted Max to die because it would have meant something to the cast. It would have meant the stakes are real, but also,
yes,
if I'm being 100% honest with you, out of all the main cast, Max is my least favorite. Not saying I don't like Max, she's just my least favorite. I like her less than I like every single other character.
Wait, you like her less than Mike?
So here's the thing. This season, no. Up until this season, I would have said the other thing, but no. But here's the thing, though. Like we already got from Will in this episode, Mike is the heart. Without Mike, we don't have the group. So if you take Mike out, we no longer have the group. They're not meeting at Mike's house to play D&D. He's not getting everybody together. He's not giving speeches. He's not getting pissed off at adults to do whatever. We don't have this group anymore.
I just wish he would do more. Like, Dustin figures out shit. Will now has like a sixth sense with the Upside Down and with Vecna.
Yeah, I'll get into that in a second.
Lucas is out here throwing hands. Like, he's like hands on getting in some shit.
That's
and Mike's just like, I love Elle.
Yeah, like I said, I'll get into it in a minute. I got to get there first. So,
okay.
Like I said, he's the heart of the group, so we need Mike. We don't need Max. Think about what Max has brought to the group. We don't actually need her. She essentially is a love interest for Lucas. She's also the character in the group who's just like, fuck you, I don't care what you say, I'm gonna be me, fuck it. But if you really think about it, they're kind of all that character, just not as intense as Max is. Max is just, if you turned all of their fucking angst up to 11, that's Max. And that's how she's always been. That's how they was even that's how she was even depicted in when they're piggybacking off of her fucking memories and they see the earliest memory of her they can find when she's skateboarding or whatever on that little training skateboard. Like, it's all the same shit. So she's been like that forever. But I'm just going to hop right into it. First things first, fuck this show. You killed Eddie. I will never forgive you, Duffer Brothers. You're fucking dead to me. You motherfuckers. How dare you kill that king? You fucking
Have you seen the conspiracy about him? Like, I saw somebody on TikTok and they have like the poster and they zoomed in like, what's this? And up in like the clouds it's like a silhouette that looks like Eddie kind of rocking. They're like, Eddie's not dead. And I'm like, oh my God.
No, Eddie's dead as fuck, bro,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. Eh, So here's the thing: I knew Eddie was gonna die in the first episode
Yeah. Well, you get
because
the
he
vibe with
tells
like cameo characters like that usually. Like if they bring a new character like Billy or them in, you kind of expect they'll be the ones to go.
Billy lived for a fucking season. That son of a bitch had a whole funeral. They wrote his bitch ass a note. Fuck Billy. Here's the
Eddie
thing.
might get a
Here's
note
the
next season. Calm down.
I don't want to know. I want Eddie. God damn it. Here's the thing. When we first meet Eddie and we have the D&D match, Eddie pretty much tells us he's gonna die.
Yeah.
He tells them the first thing he says is, "It's okay to run." You know, that's the first thing he says, and he always talks about every time he has a moment with somebody. He talks about how he runs away, how he always runs away, how he's always the person that leaves. He runs from danger. He protects himself over everything. And I was like, well, they're obviously gonna kill this motherfucker because he keeps talking about how he runs. Yeah, exactly. And as soon as him and Dustin have to get out, I was like, he's not gonna do it. Watch. So we're fucking watching it. I'm watching it with my partner, and she's like, "Oh my god, they're gonna kill." I was like, "Yeah, dude, he's not gonna go." He cut as soon as he cut that motherfucking rope, dude. That the sheet rope that they made, I was like, "He's dead, bro." I was pissed off. But let me hop off the Eddie train because everybody who's watched the show, if Eddie's not your favorite character, you don't have a fucking soul. Fight me. But here's the thing. Max got fucking destroyed, bro.
She did.
Vecna fucked Max up, dude. And it's Jason's fault because all Lucas had to do was put the headphones back on Max, but he fucking stepped on him and crushed him. So as soon as he crushed him, I was like, well, Max is fucked. And I didn't give a shit if Max was dying, but I gave a fuck that Eddie died. That literally broke my heart.
Max's stuff was brutal, though. I was like, oh shit, we're going in on this. Like, that was intense. I liked it, though.
I'm just telling you how I feel, bro. Like, Max did die brutally, even though she came back to life, which is some fucking bullshit because Eddie's still dead. Fuck you, motherfuckers. But the thing is, when Eddie died, dude, I was legitimately broken. Like, when we saw Dustin going, hey, I was doing the same thing, but in real life to my TV. Like, he could fucking hear me.
Speaking of Dustin, did he break his leg?
Yeah.
Did he actually break it? Because I know he hurt it, but he's still limping, like, later on in the episode, and this is, like, a little bit, and I was like, did he break it, or did he just, like, sprain it? Because he's hopping pretty bad.
I think he just sprained it, honestly. But, you know, adrenaline and all that, he was walking on it when he wasn't supposed to, so he just fucked it up worse. But I'm going to keep moving on. So Max died for over a minute. Vecna technically won, dude. The bad guy fucking won. That's why this season's so good. This season's good because Vecna is the coolest villain that Stranger Things has ever seen, but he's the coolest villain because he's the most human of the villains. Just like how Billy was such a cool villain is because Billy was a fucking person. He had a voice. He had a personality. He wasn't just a fucking cloud or a monster that was greasy and wet and fucking screeching all the time. So that's why Vecna's so cool. Plus, he's just Freddy Krueger without the jokes, right? And the metal claw. He has his own fucking claw. So he's haunting your dreams and all that shit. He's just Freddy Krueger, but with cooler powers in their use, right? So that's essentially what that is. So Vecna wins. I can say that Steve fucking lived, and not only did Steve live, he didn't get the shit beat out of him in the last episode. Lucas did. So there's that.
I will say that was an intense Eddie dying with Dustin, like, and them crying, and then they would go to Lucas and Max, and Lucas is just beat all to shit, and he's like crying. Dude, that was really good acting and like intense little moment in the show with all that, I thought.
Yeah, I thought it was great. So, and after that, you get like the fucking love triangles with Jonathan, Nancy, and Steve, and then even the weird one with like 11 and Mike, and then even Will, because we all kind of know that Will has a thing for Mike, but he knows that Mike is, you know, essentially, for lack of a better word, belongs to 11. So we have that. Robin finally talks to Vicky, who's broken up with her boyfriend. So we get that. And they act so similarly that I gotta believe that they won't last too long because they're too similar, right? Like, it just they don't balance each other out. They're just the fucking same at the end of the day. But with that said, we get that if you remember I think it's the first episode, Steve tells Robin that Vicky returned the Fast Times at Richmond High tape, and it was paused on the booby scene. So he likes boobies, and Robin likes boobies. So Vicky therefore likes boobies because it was paused on that scene. And she talks about how her ex-boyfriend like didn't really watch the Fast Times movie, so they bonded on that. So Vicky is obviously somebody who has been dating men because the world that they live in the 80s, it wasn't like acceptable to just date who you wanted to. So we get that going on, which I figured was going to happen by the end of this, so that's cool. But I got a question. We know that Vecna has been piggybacking off of all his victims this entire time because he's been in the Upside Down the entire time, and he like in his little mindscape world or whatever. So not only has he been piggybacking this whole time, we learned that 11 piggybacks in order to, save the day and fight Vecna. So that's really cool. But I gotta think.
What do you mean by piggybacking with 11? Like,
Vecna piggybacks because he invades the minds of his victims. He doesn't actually do anything physically to them because he's not there. He's in their mind. Right. So we know that 11 has done that too. She's also piggybacked.
Oh, like going into Max's mind and the memory and Billy and all that shit. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Follow. But my question is, does Max have powers? Because they never explained how she got into Vecna's mind space to begin with. And if you remember, Vecna was fucking surprised to see her. He was kind of shocked that she got there, and they never fucking explained that. So does Max?
You're talking about earlier when the first time Vecna takes her and she's like in his area?
Yeah.
She just runs to her, right? Like.
But how does she get there, though? Nobody else has been able to just fucking run and end up there. So does Max have an ability?
Well, didn't Nancy kind of end up there? Because he takes Nancy through all the stuff through his mind.
No, he pulled Nancy in. She didn't have a fucking choice. Oh. Max got there through her own free will. If you go back and watch, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And they never explain that, so that leaves me to think maybe she has powers. Because he was shooketh when she got there, but when everybody else got there, dude, when Nancy got there, he was like, yeah, bitch, I want you to tell her. I want you to tell her I'm coming for you, brother. I want you to tell, that's how it was. So he was fucking ready for that shit.
Wrestling promo.
We already talked about the fight with Lucas and Jason, and it's really funny that they're fighting this Freddy Krueger-esque villain, but the human villain in this show, his name is Jason. I thought that was hilarious.
Also, his death was very satisfying, and it was hilarious because when it happened, Mrs. Sin was like, what about dude? What are we going to do about him? He's over here just, knocked out right now. And about that time, the crack went through and he just disintegrated. And she was like, oh, problem solved. I was like, he gone.
Yeah. Okay. And if you also, going back to Max and her possible powers, if you remember, when they were in the house and they were trying to figure out what was going on, Dustin said that maybe Max found a back door to Vecna's world. And they didn't explain that any further. So keep that in mind. When all the adults got back to Hawkins at the end, if you noticed, Murray wasn't there. So did he go back home? Because he was just
I was trying to figure that out too. Where's Murray and where's dude from Game of Thrones?
Yeah, man. Like the Russian people, where are they? Where's Murray? I'm trying to figure out what happened to them. Because, obviously Murray would have known that Hawkins got fucking wrecked. You know what I'm saying? But with me just, going through some more stuff so we don't talk for days, let me see what else there was I wanted to talk about. First of all, Eddie's Master of Puppets scene was the best scene in the entire fucking show. I don't mean the best show of the season. I don't mean the best scene of this episode. It's the best scene in Stranger Things as a whole. That scene was fucking fantastic.
It was great. The effects are so good. The music. It's perfect.
I lied. There's one thing I would have changed. I would have kept Eddie alive and killed Max. That's what I would have done if it were.
If you were about to say Dustin, I was about to throw something through the internet at you.
I would never kill Dustin ever. Dustin is a sweet baby angel who should be.
You kill Dustin, you screwed yourself because you have no brains that are gonna. They're smart, but they're not Dustin. That's gonna freaking genius figure out everything. Okay, exactly. You know what? Why don't we do a little switcheroo on who died? How about Eddie stays alive and Argyle meets his fate?
Yeah, if Argyle died, that would have been fine too.
Speaking of death, how did you feel about Papa's death? Did it bother you? Honestly, I was kind of like, Papa, you're kind of a piece of shit. I don't really care. And Miss Sin's family is like, well, he could have she could have lied to him and it was like, meh, I don't really care.
There is like a fucking crow right by my window, just like like making noise, and I'm like, is that God telling me I'm about to die? What the fuck?
That's Vecna. I'm telling you, your time's up.
Vecna.
Vecna's here. Dude, I totally want a Vecna mask for my horror collection.
Yeah, dude.
Just can you imagine having a full Vecna suit? Oh my god, so good.
That'd be sick. That'd be sick.
Anyways, Papa, how did you feel about his death? Keep it on task.
So Papa's death, like, yeah, he had to go, bro. Like, the fact that he lived this long was crazy to begin with. But, and I honestly thought that Papa was the American they were talking about at the end of the last season. Because I knew that Hopper didn't die and we saw him, but I didn't think they were talking about him. I thought they were talking about Papa. That just made sense to me, but I guess that wasn't the case because they didn't go into that. But with that said, man, like him dying, I really thought it was cool that he died still trying to protect 11, even though he was protecting her in his way. But for the comic fans out there, Papa is literally just Professor Xavier. He's just Professor X from X-Men, like straight up. And I know a lot of people who don't read the comics are like, what do you mean? Professor X is the most amazing bald human being mutant ever. And it's just like, actually, if you read the comics, Professor X is kind of a piece of shit. And he's the cause of a lot of problems. A lot of fucking problems. You don't find that out until way later on in the X-Men comic mythos and stuff. But like, yeah, Professor X he seems really nice, like Papa does, but he is devious than a motherfucker, bro. And he like it's crazy what he does to those fucking kids. But when he died, I didn't like feel bad. The only thing that I was like, oh shit, is when he was asking 11 essentially to forgive him or whatever, and she just said goodbye, Papa, and fucking let him die and walked off. I was like, damn, she didn't give a fuck. So like that was cool. I really like seeing cold-hearted 11. And he took the collar off of her and shit. So that was nice. But seeing her bring down that fucking helicopter just reminded me of, I don't know if you guys, the Star Wars fans out there, if you played Force Unleashed, it's when you're, Star Killer and you bring down that fucking, the whole fucking starship by yourself with just the Force. Like, that's what that reminded me of. That shit was awesome. But Papa's death, I didn't feel bad for him. I thought that was a really good scene. I'm glad that was there. It made a lot of sense. It was cathartic for Eleven's character. And I'm glad it was there, dude. And he needed to go. I didn't want him to continually be a person that was going to keep coming back doing that. So I'm really glad that
they're tying up loose ends, getting ready for 5.
Mm-hmm.
So what about her having powers even with the collar on? She still did work even though that collar was on.
I mean, she's powerful as fuck. So I think the point was that he made that collar, but he also kind of said in that episode that he didn't really make the collar to kill her, right? Like that wasn't the point. It was more like an inhibiting collar, but she's much more powerful than he anticipated for the collar, and also I think it was more like a scare tactic. He's trying to get her to do what he wants the way that he wants so that he can get the result that he wants, essentially.
Yeah.
So, I thought, but I'm not going to say it wasn't awesome because I thought it was dope. But also, I don't know if you remember, they kind of told us in this episode, but they didn't really tell us. But if you go back to the last season when they had the fight in the cabin that she lived in with Hopper, and then that fight moved to Starcourt Mall. Remember, she got bit by those fucking creatures, those demi creatures, a couple of times, and then she pulled that last one out of her body, and that's the last time she could use her powers until she got essentially kidnapped by Papa, right? So I think what happened there is that was Vecna stealing her powers, because Vecna said that because 11 kept closing gates, that he had to get her power for himself so that he could start doing everything his own way. So I think when she lost her powers at the end of the last season, that's because Vecna stole her powers via that creature from the Upside Down when it bit her and went in like her body and shit, and she took it out with her power and then couldn't use her shit anymore. That was totally Vecna stealing her powers. So that's what I was thinking about, and I thought that shit was awesome, because it's a really cool theory that like they don't quite explain why her power was gone there. Papa was like, yeah, you used your powers to the breaking point and then you passed out and you just kind of lost your power. But I was like, no, I don't think that's necessarily true there because she's done that. Now we know she's done that like 3 fucking times, and she never lost her powers then. She, forgot shit for sure and was hurt and worn out, but she never lost her powers. So I think Vecna actually stole them from her, and that's how he was able to start killing these victims to get these gates open. So that's what I think. And then the other thing I was thinking about, the last question I essentially had is, where the fuck is Max? Does Vecna have her mind still? Because
question.
we know he's not dead. So does he have her mind? Is I know she's in a coma or whatever, but you still dream apparently when you're in a coma. So 11 should be able to enter her mind and see where she is to try to wake her up. But if her mind isn't there, does that mean that she's truly fucking brain dead and she's essentially a vegetable, or is her mind trapped in somewhere else, with Vecna? That's what I'm thinking. So that's the question I have going into this new season. And then we already know that the Duffer Brothers are working on a Death Note series, which is super fucking interesting, but also kind of scary.
Because the live action movie was Boo Boo Shoes.
It absolutely was Boo Boo Shoes.
The anime was good. I liked it. Live action, Boo Boo Shoes.
100% agree. So they doing that, and then I know as soon as we saw Lucas reading Max the Talisman, that I was like, okay, well that's for a reason, and it's because they're doing a Talisman show as well. So they got their hands full with projects coming up. So I wonder, how those are going to be for sure. And they're doing that apparently after Stranger Things season 5, which should start filming at the time of this recording.
I thought they already filmed it. I thought that's what you said.
Yeah, apparently I was fucking wrong because I was looking it up today to see when they were going to drop the newest season since it was done.
2024.
But I think what happened. Yeah, so what happened was they wrote the season already, but they didn't film the season already. And it turns out they didn't film it because it took them so long filming this season due to COVID. And that's why it came out so late. And that's why a lot of people like myself were super not excited about it coming back because we had to wait so long. And the kids have they're not kids anymore. They're all fucking adults. So I believe what they're going to do is to avoid what they did on season 2 when it's supposed to be a year later, but all the kids have clearly aged up fucking 2-3 years. They're going to just have a whole nother time skip. And I don't know how long the time skip's going to be, but the Duffer Brothers had hinted that the time skip is going to be significant. So it could be a couple years.
How's that going to work with how Hawkins looks? Because Hawkins looks pretty jacked up right now.
They're probably going to do something halfway post-apocalyptic, which is what I would be thinking. Just, first thoughts. That's what I would think. I'm not sure though, but I mean, the last time I decided to try to take a gander and see what they were going to fucking do with this thing, I was completely balls wrong. So I'm just going to wait and see what happens this time. I don't know. But like I said, I got questions. I asked the questions here. Hopefully they get answered soon. I'm waiting to see what's going to go down. But that's what I thought of this new season of Stranger Things. I thought it was excellent. It's definitely the best one. I did have questions that hopefully get answered in the next season. But with that being said, man, it was fucking fantastic, and I would totally watch this shit again. 100%.
Yeah, I actually want to watch the last 2 episodes again, kind of like Mrs. Sin did, just because I don't know, I definitely want to see them. They were really good. One thing we didn't touch on, very wholesome moment. Hopper gets reunited with Elle. That's a nice, wholesome, feel-good moment. And then, of course, I can't think of her name now. Winona Ryder, what's her freaking name? Joyce. They get reunited with Elle as well and the kids. So, nice, wholesome moment. But great season. Great. Best season they've had, for sure. And R.I.P. Eddie. But that is going to do it for this episode. That's all we got. And now it is time for the final little piece of segment. And you may know it as Last Call.
Pass the whiskey.
That's right. We passed the whiskey. Get your whiskeys ready, boys and girls, because we got a question coming in from the one and only, the legend, B. Luda himself. So he says, "Hi, Sin and Christian. I just finished the podcast about the movies that you scared y'all the most. Funny story. The one that sticks out to me isn't even a scary movie or a scary one. It's Free Willy. When I was young, the scene where he's washing and Willy flashing in front of him scared me to death as a child. So my last call question is there any movie that stands out that wasn't scary that got you with a jump scare?" I'll start because honestly, I've been trying to think of a non-horror movie and I'm struggling. I'm sure there's been some and they'll probably eventually come to me, but off the top of my head, there's a funny little story I was younger. I was at my grandparents'. I was watching Beetlejuice, which I guess can kind of be classified as a horror movie, sort of, but it's not really. I wouldn't really. I don't know. You can watch it in October, so I mean, I guess that kind of counts. But I was watching it, and my grandma come in to look for me, and I was actually hiding behind a chair, and she was just like, "What are you doing?" And apparently, I was scared of the sandworms that are in the movie. So that sticks out. Other than that, I'm drawing a huge blank, but I will definitely keep thinking. But yeah, Beetlejuice, sandworms. Apparently, when I was a kid, scared the crap out of me. Christian?
That's fair, man. I was thinking there's a couple of movies that I remember watching when I was a kid that had scenes that definitely freaked me out. And the biggest one that I can think of is for all of those of you who've watched Pinocchio, the animated Pinocchio, the scene where they get turned into fucking donkeys, bro. That shit fucked with me, man. I was like, oh my god. That shit was scary as fuck, dude. Like them turning into fucking jackasses, dude. I was like, nope, not for me. Hell no. I'm out. That's how I felt. It really, really fucked with me. And another thing that I used to watch all the time that freaked me out was the X-Files, particularly the fucking theme song, not even the show. The theme song used to fuck with me so bad that I wouldn't even need to watch the episodes because I was already scared. And if you grew up in the 90s when the X-Files was on TV all the time, dude, I remember watching that shit because it was like the last thing to watch on TV before you only got like Star Trek and then like the fucking weird infomercial stuff. But that would come on, and I remember watching it and just being so freaked out by the theme song that once the episode was over, if I wasn't afraid, I would just play the theme song over and over and over in my head, not meaning to. It's like subconsciously I would do that and just freak myself the fuck out.
It was Vecna doing it. Vecna was playing it.
Vecna was, yeah, probably, dude. Makes sense. But like the TVs back in the day were like the old tube TVs and everything was all grainy all the time. So like certain shit you couldn't see very well, especially if it was a scene that was in the dark. And like my mind just fucking went wild with that shit, dude. It used to bother me so badly. But yeah, that's exactly that's it, man. X-Files theme in particular and the donkey transformation in Pinocchio. Those messed me up.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Thanks for bringing up those memories.
Yeah, thank you so much, Beluda, for asking those questions. We appreciate it. Reaching out. And if you would like to have a question featured on the episode, just reach out to us via Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, or in Gilded. Gilded.gg/Sinister Pack. In the application, just put from the podcast. There's a whole section just for the Sippin With Sin podcast. All kinds of stuff from last call questions to what you're drinking, episode chat, info on the socials, and yeah, Sinister tales, personal stories, all that good stuff. So plenty of stuff that you can come talk to us and communicate with us and all that stuff. But with that being said, also go check out Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter at Sippin With Sin, SIPPIN with Sin. Go drop a follow, say hello, talk to us. We love to hear from you. We love to correspond with you guys and hear your thoughts. We love getting feedback, talking whether it be about the boys, about stuff we're talking about Stranger Things, or anything. We love hearing the feedback, so thank you all so much for that, and let's continue to do it. Continue to spread the word because every episode comes out on Wednesdays, every Wednesday, 8 a.m. Central Time, on every audio platform. That's Google, that's Spotify, that's Apple, that's Overcast, that's Anchor.fm, all that good stuff. It will be there, so check it out. Show some love to it. Rate it 5-star, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. Share it with your friends. Let your dog listen to it. Tell them to make an account, subscribe as well. Move it up the charts. Help us continue to grow our audience. Also, if you want to watch the video version, some people prefer the video version. It's on my personal YouTube, youtube.com. IamSinister. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. You can check it out. You can also find me, Sinister, at pretty much everywhere at IamSinister TV. That's Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. You can find me streaming live on Facebook, fb.gg/IamSinister TV. On Twitch at twitch.tv/IamSinister TV. And TikTok live at Sinister. I am Sinister TV. And yeah, come say hi to me. I would love to see you. Come talk to me in the streams. Have some people actually come in and talk about the podcast in the stream. So that's always awesome. But yeah, that's where you can find me. Christian, where can the lovely folks find you besides OnlyFans and Grindr?
You guys can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Venin Inc. That is VENANDINK. Those are the only two places currently you can find me on social media because contrary to popular belief, I don't like social media that much.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We appreciate you all listening. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have made it this far, you're awesome. And if not, then you're still awesome because, no hate. But appreciate you all. Everybody have a great one. And we're going to let Christian shut this thing down until next week. Christian, take it away.
Thank you all so much for tuning in to yet another episode of Sipping With Sin. Be sure to leave a 5-star review, smash that like button, leave your comments in the comment section below, but most importantly, guys, don't forget, no matter what happens, don't get gutted.
That's right.